Okay, preschool. So I'm going to tell you a Bible story today. I'm going to tell you a story from our Bible. And tell me, who does the Bible tell us about? Yes, God and Jesus. And did these stories in here really happen? They did. They really did happen. They happened many, 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 many years ago. But they did happen. And today, I'm going to tell you the story about Easter. So, first of all, Easter is super fun. There's a lot of fun things about Easter. And I would like you to tell your family or whoever you're with something that you know about Easter. Go ahead and pause this video and tell your family something you know about Easter. All right, so I'm guessing some of you said the Easter Bunny comes, which is super fun. I'm guessing some of you talked about jelly beans and Easter egg hunts, maybe chocolate or new clothes. But did you know that there is a reason that Easter happened? There is. And it has to do with Jesus. It's an amazing story. Now, I want to tell you, there are some scary parts. But I don't want you to be scared because everything turns out okay. But I'm going to use some Easter eggs. These are my resurrection eggs to tell you the story. Now, some of you brought some eggs to preschool because we were going to make them here. But since we're not at school, I thought I'd tell you the story about this, and then maybe you could make some at home, or you can just use this video to listen to the story because it's a really good story. So, inside of my eggs, there's stuff. Oh, you can't hear that one. Here. There's different things inside of each of these eggs, and it's going to help me to tell you the story. Okay, so egg number one. Let's see what's inside egg number one. Oh, it's a picture of a donkey. All right, so let me get my Bible out so I can show you. The reason there's a picture of the donkey is Jesus. Here's Jesus right here. He said to his disciples, which were his good friends, he said, hey, I need you guys to go and get me a brand new donkey that has never ever been ridden before. And because, you know, when Jesus was alive, they didn't have cars, they didn't have airplanes, they didn't even have bicycles. The way they got around was walking or horses or donkeys. So Jesus wanted a brand new donkey that no one had ever ridden before. So his disciples, they listened to him, and they went and got Jesus this brand new donkey. Rode it into Jerusalem. Here he is coming into Jerusalem. And the people were so excited to see him. In fact, they had these palm branches, and they would wave them in the air, and they were saying, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. They were so happy to see Jesus come into Jerusalem. There's 3 coins in that one. So, those people who were waving those branches, they loved Jesus. They loved him. And they were so happy to see him, but not everybody did. There were some people who did not like Jesus, and they wanted to arrest him. And they went to one of Jesus' friends, Judas, and they said, if you tell us where Jesus is, we'll give you some money. And Judas said, okay, I'll do it. So the high priest, they gave Judas 30 silver coins to tell them where Jesus was going to be. Number 3. It's a cup, a fancy cup. And this fancy cup has a name called a chalice. So Jesus took his disciples, his good friends, to the upper room for a supper. We call it the Last Supper. Here's a picture of Jesus inviting them, saying, come with me, you guys, up to the upper room, and we're going to have a dinner together. Okay? Now, at this meal, Jesus is telling all of his friends that some scary stuff is going to happen. And he's telling them, you know, don't be scared. Everything's going to be okay, but there are going to be some things that happen that might be scary. And then Jesus, he also said, and I know that one of you guys is going to tell the bad guys where I'm at. And they all said, no, we would never do that. Here's Judas. And Judas knows that he already has taken that money. And he's already agreed to tell the bad guys where Jesus is going to be. Or, let's see what's in here. Praying hands. All right, so after supper, Jesus, he wanted to go to the Garden of Gethsemane. And he wanted to pray. And it was nighttime. And he asked his disciples, hey, will you guys stay at the entrance of the garden and keep watch if anybody comes in and tries to get me? And look, there's his disciples. They're all sleeping by the tree. And Jesus went in to pray. He was talking to his Father. Who's his Father? God, that's right. And he was talking to God because Jesus knew all the things were going to happen. And Jesus was a person just like you and me. And he was kind of scared. I prayed. He talked to his Father God. He said, Father God, please, I'm scared and I don't want to do this. I'm nervous. Please, Lord, do I have to do it? And God said to Jesus, I'm sorry, Jesus, but you have to do it. And Jesus said, okay, if you want me to do it, then that's what I'll do. Well, about that time when Jesus was done praying, into the garden comes the soldiers. And here's the high priest. And this is Judas. And Judas told the high priest, you'll know who Jesus is because I'll give him a kiss on the cheek. So Judas walks up to Jesus and gives him a kiss on his cheek. And then here comes the soldiers. And here comes the high priest. And they're all coming to arrest Jesus. And at that same time, the other disciples woke up in the commotion and said, oh my gosh, they are trying to arrest Jesus. And one of the disciples, Simon Paul, took out his sword because he wanted to protect Jesus. And he flung his sword at one of the soldiers. And the sword hit the soldier's ear. And his ear got cut off and fell onto the ground. Well, Jesus said, stop. You are not going to raise a sword in my name. And Jesus picked up the ear, was holding the ear in his hand, walked up to the soldier, and he put it on his head, moved his hand away, and the ear was fixed. And right then the soldier was shocked, of course. And the soldier knew that Jesus was the Son of God, but they still arrested him. It's sort of like a shoestring, but it's supposed to represent a whip. Now, I don't know if you know what a whip is, but a whip is like a long rope. And what they did is, so they arrested Jesus, and they took him into the town. They took him to town, and they tied his arms up against like a tree, and they took off his shirt, so it was just his bare skin. And they took this big, long rope made of leather, and they hit Jesus on his back. They hit him 39 times on his back, and it was so painful, and it would give him big cuts, and blood would come out, and Jesus, it hurt him so bad. Now, Jesus could have stopped this at any time, but he didn't. People were making fun of it. They were laughing at him. They were spitting on him, but guess what? Not one time was Jesus mean to them. Not one time was he mean to them back. The crown of thorns. So thorns, they're a part of a bush, like a roses or a plant, and it's like a twig or a stick, and there's pokey things in it. These are super sharp. I'm sure you've seen them in your yard before. And part of the people who were making fun of Jesus, because here's the thing, Jesus wants to be the king of our heart. He doesn't want to be the king of Atumwa or the king of America or the king of a place. He wants to be the king of our heart, which means that we love him a bunch. And some of the people, they were making fun of him, were saying, oh, if you're a king, then you need a crown. So they took some of those pokey vines and they turned it into a circle and they smashed it onto Jesus' head. And when it poked into his skin, blood would pour down. I kind of have a picture here. Blood would pour down. Sorry. Here. So there's the crown of thorns on his head. Here you can see all the owies on his back from that whip. Oh, my goodness. He had to take a big, heavy cross. No, not just a little teeny tiny cross. A big, big, big cross. And he had to carry it up a very big hill. And while he was going up, he was so tired because he had all those owies and he had the thorns in his head and he'd fall down. But the soldiers were so rude. Here's one of the soldiers. The soldiers were so rude. And they'd say, get up and start walking again. He was so tired. He had to carry it and he had to carry it and he had to carry it. Finally, he got up to the top. A nail. This is where it gets kind of sad. What happened was they got to the top of the mountain, and they laid the big cross down on the ground. And they took off Jesus' clothes. They were trying to embarrass him and take off his clothes. And they took a nail. Now, not like a little nail. I'm going to show you what the real nail was like. It was a big, big, huge nail. Big nail. And they took Jesus' hands and they laid it down on the wood. And then they took the nail and and they hammered it, bam, 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 until it went all the way through his hand and stuck to the wood of the cross. And then they did it to the other hand, and they did it to both of his feet. And it hurt so much, and Jesus was crying and crying. It was so painful for him. And then they lifted the cross straight up in the sky. And here's Jesus. There you can see the nails in his hands and the nails in his feet. And up here, it says the Son of God. That's why they did this, because Jesus said he was the Son of God. Down here, that's his mommy, Mary. Look, he said, but guess what? All these people being rude to Jesus, he wasn't mad at them. He loved them, and he was so nice to them. Die. Now, while Jesus was hanging on the cross, before they hung him up, they took his clothes off to embarrass him. And the soldiers were fighting over the clothes. They said, no, I want to take the clothes. No, they're mine. No, they're mine. They were fighting over them. So then they rolled the dice and played a game, gambled, to see who was going to get to take Jesus's clothes home. All right, now we need number 9. Number 9 has a toothpick. Now, this is supposed to represent a sword, or another word for sword is a spear. They took the sword and they jabbed it into his side, into the side of his body. And what came out was blood and water. And that's when everybody knew that Jesus had died on the cross. All right, now number 10, it kind of has like some cloth. This is burial cloth. So after Jesus died, they took his body down from the cross, and his mommy Mary took it and wrapped it up in burial cloth, and she put it in a tomb. So now a tomb, it's sort of like, in this picture, it sort of looks like a cave. And that's Jesus's body right there, all wrapped up. It's number 11. And then there's the big, it's a little stone. But the stone that they would have used to cover up the tomb would have been humongous, huge, to cover the whole entrance of this tomb, okay? So then, that was on Friday. Well, then Sunday morning, one of Jesus's friends, Mary, and this is Jesus's friend, not his mommy, just his friend, Mary, went to the tomb to take some spices and to take some flowers and things like that. And here's our last day, number 12. And number 12 is empty because when Mary got to the tomb, the stone that covered the entrance had been rolled away. And she walked up to it and she was like, oh, she looked inside and Jesus's body was gone. She thought somebody had taken and stolen Jesus's body. So she went running into the garden and she bumped into the gardener. Sir, she didn't look at him. She said, sir, Jesus' body has been taken. Someone has taken it. Please, will you help me? And the gardener said, Mary. And Mary looked up, and it was not the gardener. It was Jesus. And she said, oh my gosh. And she wanted to hug him. And he said, no, you can't touch me yet, Mary. I haven't gone back to my Father. But go and tell all my disciples that I am alive. I have risen from the dead. Jesus was no longer dead. Now, if all of a sudden Mrs. Johnson died and I wanted to come back to life, could I? No, but Jesus can do anything. So Mary, here she is seeing Jesus. All of this happened on Sunday morning, Easter Sunday. The very first Easter Sunday morning is when Jesus came back to life. That's why we have Easter, is because Jesus rose from the dead. And then after 40 days, it was time for Jesus to go to heaven. Now in this part, you can see, here came the angels, and like all the people were so shocked to see the sky full of angels. And Jesus did not die again to go to heaven. Nope. He ascended, which means he just floated up to heaven. And there he goes, right there. All right, so Easter Sunday morning is so much fun. So many fun things happen at Easter. But the whole reason that we have Easter is all because that was the day that Jesus rose from the dead. And why? I mean, why did all this happen? Do you know why it happened? It all happened because that's the way we get to go to heaven. We make mistakes. Raise your hand if you make mistakes. Lots of them. We all make mistakes. But Jesus loved us so much that he died on the cross so that all of our mistakes, all the times we mess up, could be forgiven. So when we die, we get to go to heaven. How awesome is that?